Hi everyone, it's Tara Bianca with Be Light Transformative Therapy, and today I want to do a bit more ear massage with you guys. I wasn't planning to do another ear session so soon, but a number of you reached out to me requesting more of this work, so I thought we'd give it a go today and just explore a little bit more around this area. Today we're going to begin with a little bit of gentle lymphatic drainage and then progressively get deeper around the tissues of the ear. This session might be really nice for helping to relieve headaches, TMJ pain, maybe neck pain, and then also, because we have these auricular branches of the vagus nerve, a lot of people find that ear massage is great for relieving general tension and also for helping to bring on a state of true relaxation. We're not going to get heavy into the anatomy today. I'm simply going to show and then you can follow. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so we're going to start today's session off with a little gentle lymphatic drainage for just the neck and the area around the ears. Now, caveat here, I am not a lymphatic expert, but this is roughly what I would do for myself, so you can follow along. The biggest thing here is that we're not doing deep massage work, right? Really keeping it gentle, almost thinking about just moving the skin over the surface. So we're going to start right in this area around the clavicles. I like to actually cross my hands for this. So we're going to start above the clavicles in this little soft triangle. And we're just going to make 10 circles. So I'm not digging in, light pressure, and I'm just making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 circles. I also like to go a little bit below the clavicles. And again, I'm just making little circles. Taking the skin with me. Good. And then we're going to work our way up the neck to the back of the ears and then around the ears. So we're going to use SCM as our kind of guideline. So that's that triangular V-shaped muscle there. We're just going to follow that to be our guide. So again, I like to cross my hands for this. And I'm just very gently making little circles, thinking about scooping that SCM muscle. About 10 circles in each location. And then I'm going to move up a little bit and again. Breathing slowly and quietly while you're doing this. Trying to really get that diaphragm to activate while you're doing this. So thinking about a nice belly breath. And then moving up again. And now, I want you to think about this area right behind the angle of the mandible. So if you look at my jawline, here's the base of my mandible, and here's the back half of the mandible. So you see how it makes a corner, right? We're going to go right behind that corner into this soft area. Again, very light pressure, not too deep, but you have some major lymphatic vessels there. And we're just going to, this is one of your main lymph nodes of your neck and throat. And we're just doing 10 circles. Good. Now you're going to take your fingers and you're going to surround your ears and very gently, you're barely pressing in. I'm thinking about taking the skin behind the ear and in front of the ear with me. And I'm just going to gently go up and down 10 times. Making sure you're taking the skin behind the ear and the front of the ear with you. Okay, and then we're going to go back down where we came from. So going back to this area right behind the corner of the mandible and 10 circles. Not too deep, not too hard. And then I'm going to cross again and start to work my way back down that SCM area. Working my way down 10 circles, kind of mid-throat, mid-neck. Going a little bit lower. And then back to our starting point, right above the clavicles in that soft, fleshy triangle, 10 final circles. Good. Okay, so now we're going to take that same position of separating our index finger from the rest of our fingers and surrounding the ear. So we've got pressure on the front of the ear and pressure on the back of the ear. I'm right behind that pinna that we were speaking about in the last session, that real big lobe of the ear, or I guess this is the lobe, that big piece of the thing that we call the ear. So we're surrounding it. Gentle pressure inward, so a little bit of inward pressure. And we're going to start just really superficially, just rubbing up and down, just warming up that tissue. So I'm putting a little bit of inward pressure with those fingers and just rubbing up and down about 10 times. Okay, now keeping that same finger position, we're going to go deeper. So now I'm really isolating the pressure to the index finger and third finger, pressing directly in, and then just shifting the tissue up and down, maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. So starting up at the top of the ear, I'm pressing in the front and the back simultaneously, pressing in towards midline, and now taking that tissue with me up and down. So now I'm not moving over the skin. I'm taking all of that tissue with me up and down. 5, 10 times, however much you feel like doing it. Keeping that inward pressure the whole time. And then I'm just going to move down a little bit, one like finger's width down. And pressing in with the index and the third finger, taking that tissue up and down. 5 to 10 times, whatever feels good to you. And then we're going to move down about another finger's width. Same thing, pressing in, going up and down. So you're really making contact with those structures that you feel under your fingers. There's a lot of them. And then let's go down one more point. So just moving down another finger's width. So now I'm really kind of getting close to that angle of the mandible again. I'm in the fibers of my masseter, which is my chewing muscle, one of my big chewing muscles. And I'm really on that mastoid process. We talked about that last time, that big, thick bone right behind the ear. So pressing in with the index and the third finger and moving up and down. Good. Good. Okay, so next we're going to really start to unstick this pinna from the tissue of the skull itself. So we're going to strain on the skull and use the ear itself to create a counter strain. So maybe I'll turn sideways so you can see this better. Okay, so we're going to work our way all the way around the ear, starting from the top and working bit by bit all the way around. So my left hand, my fingers of my left hand are sinking into the skull this way, pulling the tissue away from the ear, and then I'm going to grab my ear and I'm going to counter strain that pinna in the opposite direction. All right, so I pressed in with my left hand, dragged up away from the ear, and then I used the ear itself to pull in the other direction. And we're going to keep doing the same process all the way around. So I'm going to take my left hand and move back 1 inch or so, press into the skull, drag away from the ear that way, grab the ear and counter strain away. Right? So I'm really opening up all this tissue behind the ear. So I'm taking the fingers, I'm pushing directly in, up away from the ear, take the pinna and pull it away. All right, go back another little bit, pressing directly into the head, away from the ear, take the ear, pull it away. All right, fingers into the skull, pull back away, take the ear, and pull away. So you're straining and counter straining, straining and counter straining. I'm going to switch positions here. So now coming back behind the ear, pressing directly in, pulling away, take the ear and pull it off in the opposite direction. Again, fingers into the skull, pull away, take the ear, pull in the opposite direction. Okay, and then one last spot, kind of on that mastoid bone, that huge bone right behind the ear. Taking the tissue, pushing in, directly in, pulling the tissue down, take the tissue with you. Take the lobe of the ear and pull opposite. All right, so let's try that one more time. Pressing into that mastoid this way, pulling it down, taking the lobe of the ear, pulling away. Good. And just for good measure, let's do the other side so we can even it out. Okay, so same thing, I'm doing my left ear now. So I'm taking my right hand across and I'm starting at the top of the ear. I'm pressing directly in, pulling up away from the ear, grab the pinna, and then pulling down, counter straining. So I'm pressing into the skull, taking that tissue of the skull away from the ear in one direction, grabbing the ear itself, and pulling it away, actively pulling it in the opposite direction. So you should feel like almost like a skin burn at this connector point of the ear. Some people love that, some people do not like that. If this doesn't feel good to you, don't do it. I love this. Okay, moving back a couple fingers widths, pressing into the skull, pulling away from the ear, grab the ear, and pull in the other way, counter straining. Good, try again, pushing into the skull, pulling away, and then counter straining back the other way. Good, moving back again, pressing in, pulling away, grab the ear, and counter strain. And again, pushing in, pulling away, grab the ear, and counter strain. Moving down again, pressing in, pulling away, and taking the ear and counter straining. Pressing in, pulling away, taking the ear, counter strain. Good. I'm going to switch positions now, bring this right arm across to that mastoid process, pressing directly in, pulling it down, taking the lobe and pulling it in the opposite direction. You could switch hands too. I don't know why I'm making this complicated. You could do it like this, okay? So I could take the hand that's on the same side so I'm more comfortable, press into the mastoid process, drag down, grab the lobe, and pull the opposite way. That probably feels a little bit more ergonomically correct. Good. Good. Okay, so now we're going to pick up and roll this tissue along the zygomatic arch, right? So this is like where all the muscles of mastication start to connect. We call this the cheekbone as well, right? So you can feel this hard bone that defines your cheek. We're really going to focus on this area right at the top of the ear and in front of the TMJ. So I'm picking up that tissue. I'm just doing this, and I'm going to roll it back and forth between my fingers. And I'm also thinking about pulling it off the bone a little bit. This is going to get pretty uncomfortable. So we're squeezing that tissue. And you can kind of drag up and down. So if any of you watched that scalp release video that I did, it's the same sort of technique, right? I'm picking up the tissue, pulling it off the bone, and mobilizing it in different directions. It's not just one point. You can work this whole area, right? So you really find what works for you, find an area of tension. And I'm kind of just seesawing my hands. My thumb is kind of pushing into my index and middle finger. And especially if you have a lot of jaw pain, a lot of jaw tension, this can feel pretty nasty. I would expect most people would feel tension in here. We chew a lot during the day. Mine's not so bad right now because I already did this earlier today in preparation for this video. But it was feeling really sore before. If working on both sides at the same time is too much, just work on one side at a time. Sometimes, especially if it's painful, working on both sides at the same time can get pretty overwhelming. and start to induce more of a stress response than a relaxation response. So I'm just picking up and rolling. Right, so you can see the tissue dragging from my lips, from my chin, from my jaw. Working the other side. Oof. You can even pull it back and forth, back and forth. Really opening up that tissue that connects to the cheekbone. Okay, good. Okay, so now we're going to readdress the tragus. We worked on this a bit last time. We're just going to do a little bit more with it today. So again, that's that little cartilaginous piece. On me, it's sort of a perfect triangle. It's going to be a slightly different shape on everybody, right? So this little fleshy nub that kind of covers and protects that ear hole, the external auditory meatus. So today we're just going to grab it and pinch it. So I'm just going to pinch it between my thumb and my index or third finger. So the thumbs are kind of going in the ear, right? So you can see that tragus pop up, right? And I'm just going to grab it. I'm just going to pinch. So I'm just pinching, creating a little pressure. And now while I keep pinching, I'm going to take that tragus with me and just make circles in both directions. So making circles in one direction, 5, 10 times, whatever feels good to you. And then I'm going to re-grip because I lost my grip. Thumbs inside the ear, gripping with my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to pull in the other direction, making circles in the other direction. Good. And then we did this last time, but to me it just feels so good. You're going to think about folding that tragus in half. So I'm thinking about taking that apex of the triangle and folding it over, bending the tragus. So I'm just going to, not pushing them into the ear hole itself, really trying to fold that little piece of flesh in half. And while I'm folding it, I'm kind of rotating up and down, just stimulating that piece of cartilage. So folding it in half, folding the apex of that triangle over, and then just moving up and down. Good. And while we're here, it just feels good. I'm just going to massage from the inside of the ear out. I'm just going to massage from the whole of the ear and just pull out in all directions. Right? We can do that at the same time. Pulling in and out. So my index finger is sinking into the hole and then dragging out, dragging out, dragging out. Good. Okay, we did something akin to this last time as well, but we're going to look at that folded area of the pinna, that external curl. And not everyone has this, right? Like mine really curls over pretty evenly the whole way, but I've seen some people where they don't have a curl at all. So only do this obviously if it's relevant to you, but I'm just getting my thumb in there and I'm just trying to uncurl it, uncurl it, uncurl, right? So it's a little bit of this type of motion. I'm using my index and my middle finger as a base of support into which I can press my thumb, right? So we can do it at the same time. I'm just slowly, bit by bit, thinking about uncurling the ear, uncurling the ear, uncurling, uncurling, uncurling. So you can also do a little bit of this, right? This. And just taking a couple passes, trying to uncurl that area. Good. So now we're going to do just some direct point pressure all through that curl of the tissue. So let's start by getting right into you see where the curl starts to come into right behind the tragus here, right? There's a space where I can put my finger. And if your index finger is too large, you could use a pinky finger, whatever works well for you. But I'm taking my index finger and I'm going directly forward. So I'm not going in, no inward pressure. I'm trying to take that fold and unfold it without even moving. So I'm just pinpointed pressure. So it's almost like I'm pinning my ear to my head a little bit. I'm not moving. I'm just driving the pressure forward. Forward. Driving the pressure forward, right? It's this way, not this way. Just pinning that point inside the curl of the ear. And I'm just holding and I'm breathing. And we're going to do maybe 3 points like this, moving our way around the ear. Again, it depends on the contours of your ear and if you can get a finger hold like this or not. So now just moving up a little bit, right? Sorry, my hair keeps getting in the way. So now I'm just going to sort of the apex of that curl, getting my finger in there and just pinning it directly up, right? No pressure in, directly up. You can even turn your fingers this way if it's easier. So I'm just pushing directly up, pushing directly up, pushing directly up. Okay. Holding, breathing. I feel this pulling all the way behind my jaw. Where do you guys feel this? I'm starting to feel it pull into my throat. Nice. Kind of remarkable. Okay, and then if you have it available, let's do one more spot. So getting behind into this curl and just pulling back, pushing back with the finger. Getting to the back of the curl and pushing back. And just holding and just breathing. I'm slipping. See, I lost my grip. Pushing back. Good. So now we'll do that same thing, but with more of that inner spiral, that inner cartilage. So we have this big kind of spiral on the outside, but we also have this smaller one on the inside, right? That real thick, dense piece of cartilage. We can do the same thing of getting under it and just pinning it, not pushing in, but pushing into the curve of the cartilage itself. So I'm just finding where it starts and I'm just pressing in. And again, it depends on the shape of your ear. There might only be about 2 spots that we can do this to today. So getting in and I'm going straight into the curve, not inward, straight into the curve of the ear. So on this side, straight into the curve of the ear. So this is my direction. And I'm just pinning, and holding. And breathing. And you can hold for as long as you need to. What do you feel? Where do you feel this referring to? Do you feel the tissue starting to unwind inside the ear, into the jaw, into the throat, into the neck? Where do you feel this? The longer you hold it, the more you should feel it start to unwind. Good. Okay, and then I'm going to take one more spot. So I'm still in this inner spiral, this more cartilaginous area, and I'm just trying to catch the lip of that cartilage again. So now I'm just going to go a little bit more. You see how it's mobilizing a little bit more towards the ceiling, towards the top of my head, towards this apex of the ear. I'm just going to find that. And I'm pushing more towards the ceiling. Again, you have to go with the shape of your ear. So find where you can get like a finger hold and then press that way. And so I'm just pinning the tissue, lifting and holding. where do you feel that unwinding? With all the stuff we do with the ear, you can always play around with mobilizing the jaw, seeing if that creates a little bit more of a release for you. Okay, very good. Okay, and then I want to end today exactly the way we started, with that little lymph drainage routine that we were doing. So go ahead and cross your hands again, find that little space right above the clavicles, and we're just going to do about 10 circles, light pressure, taking the skin with you, keeping it very superficial. And then we're going to use that SCM muscle, that V-shaped muscle, and follow it up, doing 10 little circles as we move up the anterior neck. Going to the mid-neck, mid-SCM. Going a little higher, 10 circles. And now I'm uncrossing my hands. I'm finding that angle of the mandible, right? Here's my mandible. Here's the back end of the mandible. Look how it makes this nice corner. I'm sinking into that soft tissue right behind there lightly, not a lot of pressure. And I'm just making my 10 circles. And then I'm surrounding the ears, right? So a little bit of pressure on the front and behind the ear simultaneously, pressing in, just taking the skin with me up and down 10 times. Good, and then reversing, going back behind the corner of the mandible. And then crossing my hands, working my way back down SCM. And to the mid-neck. And a little bit lower. And finally, right at that top part, that above the clavicles again. 10 circles to finish. Good. I hope you enjoyed this extended exploration of the ears. I'm really curious to hear how you're feeling after doing this work. Please leave me some feedback in the comments below about your experience, along with any other requests for any other type of body work. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. Also, be sure to check out my totally free Breath Basics 6-Day Challenge, my deep dive into functional breathing called the 4-Week Breath Bootcamp, and my private online Be Light community. Lastly, if you'd like to donate to my channel or purchase one of my downloadable ebooks, then you may do so by visiting my Buy Me a Coffee page. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.